Hello and welcome to the show. We start this week's FailRace episode with Jeremy McDood on GTA 5 in the passenger seat as they are racing through Los Santos. A police car gets sent to orbit off the nose of the Armour Kuruma, almost so nearly manages to land and explode back on the player's car. I mean, the Armour Kuruma is a good car, of course, for pushing stuff out of the way. You don't normally launch vehicles into space, though, and they certainly don't normally manage to hit you. McDaddy's up next on GTA 5. FailRace Police Department are back at it again. They've chased a player up a mountain and then got bored, or, you know, players got rid of the wanted level. And now they're trying to turn around in the most awkward way possible. The first car eventually manages to make it round. The second is doing a similar, it's just like a 10-point turn. I don't know quite why, and that then also scrapes along the nose of the car at the back of the train and has now got stuck. And that police car actually reverses. The police car at the back, oh no, they're having a little bit of a bumping duel. No, I was going to say the police car at the back was almost being sensible. Now they're not being sensible. Are we going to have a big head-on crash? No, they've now just about managed. I don't think there could have been a more difficult way to try and get three cars to turn around. The final police car, though, does at least do a sensible job of the turning round part. There might have been some crashes, but at least they managed to turn around somehow. We move on to the Mafia Definitive Edition, a clip from Matizio, with, I don't know what on earth sort of car this is, just a massive engine stuck on some wheels, and that's about it. There's barely any frame to it. It's cool, looks quite fast for the era and everything. And now they're going to go and reset by jumping in the water. However, it turns out, if you jump in the water... well, you don't jump in the water on this point here for whatever reason. You just drive and float. Maybe it's a magic car. Maybe. It certainly shouldn't be able to go over there. Falcon King is up next on Mafia 2 here. Driving it around with, of course, another awesome classic vehicle. However, things go a little bit awry for this one. Racing across the streets, there is sort of a bump coming up. The car hits it, bounces, flips, and the player dies. I guess the game... Because, I mean, it was a convertible, and the player's head was kind of sticking up above the windscreen, so as the car landed upside down, that was actually enough to kill the player. I can't think of another game that's actually a thing that happens outside of being flung from a car. It's quite impressive, either way, I have to say. Theft Auto up next on Test Drive Unlimited 2. Now, this is with a very similar crash, a much more modern car we have got here, the McLaren, as we're in these bits of Hawaii are quite dangerous for cars. Hits a big jump, smacks on the landing, goes for a front flip, no death this time around, lands and can perfectly carry on and everything. But yes, modern cars are safer. You're less likely to smack your face on the floor if your game glitches and physics flings you about. Anyway, on to Need for Speed 2015 JT Gaming, racing along in a skyline, everything going, I say, fairly well. There's a something, I don't even know what it was, a barrier or a car just underneath a crest, and that was enough to just launch the skyline to orbit. It actually punched its way through the floor, and yeah, all bad things went on. Horizon 5 up next with the kind of rock bouncer vehicle is completing, I think, a custom circuit we've got going on here, which, you know, it looks like a fun little layout. Everything going relatively well. However, runs a little too wide on the jump, hits a wall, and now gets stuck halfway through the floor. The best thing is, though, the wheels, as the vehicle's stuck upside down, the wheels are still in contact with the ground, so it can still drive. I mean, I've played a lot of Horizon. I've never seen this. It does ping itself back up when it bumps onto another wall. I wonder how long that could have lasted under the floor and still somehow be able to be driven. Of all the falling through the floor glitches, that is possibly my favourite one we've seen. A Tiny Mage up next is on grid, doing one of these fast kind of downhill battles. Carries a little bit too much speed, loses control of the skyline, pings off the wall, manages to land perfectly on the wheels and carry on. In fact, if anything, has managed to make some ground on the car ahead, and as they come towards these next corners, the player is able to have a dive and get the pass completed. That could have gone so much worse. So much worse. The crashes on that sort of race normally just end in sort of race over. We're on to Wreckfest up next with a couple of the buggies, I think is what their name is, if I remember correctly, battling away. As they go over a crest, they're pretty much side by side. They both bounce on the landing and perfect synchronized rolls. Okay, they lose a little bit of synchronicity later on, but I tell you what, there's definitely some bonus points in that. Blue Dog on NASCAR 2021 with an AI going for an almighty tumble. That is a hell of a crash for the green machine there. Yeah, I mean, I think the AI just kind of comes up a little bit. The player ends up in the back of it. They can't steer away until they go and smack the wall. And once it starts rolling, the player... In slow-mo, it does look, it looks a little bit worse. The player does bounce the car a little bit, but the roll just carries on. It's just going to keep going there and still keep rolling. It goes out of frame for a little bit. But yeah, that is a mighty impressive roll from an AI car. Got to say, these old games have some pretty bloody good damage. They put some modern games to shame. I know the cars are not as detailed models and everything, but yeah, there's some cool damage. I also love that the player is able to boop it back onto its wheels after all of that as well. Mike is up next on Automobilista 2 with some Ultimas going racing. I mean, these are great fun, sort of, well, very fast track cars, if you like. The camera is following an AI vehicle. I believe the player is driving the purple car here. They're having a good little battle. Everything is sort of normal, if you like, in this race until the AI car, for whatever reason, goes one way, then the other, manages to flip their car in a straight line, loses all of the bodywork, but can then carry on. I don't know. The car was miles away from the grass. I don't know why the sudden sort of jinking from side to side. I'm amazed that that is enough to flip an Ultima as well. It's not exactly a high-riding car or anything. The final clip we have comes from T-Strike on Assetto Corsa. He's racing some very classic Grand Prix cars. I believe this is around the old Spa circuit, the original Spa circuit, if you like. Very, very quick circuit. Up ahead, AI runs wide. I mean, the player runs wide a little bit. The AI is in a lot more trouble, though. As it launches off of what's essentially someone's driveway. Like the driveways, I think, go across a ditch. And yeah, that gets absolutely launched to space. So the AI just carries too much speed, hits the mound of dirt. There's an AI in the background has a crash as well, just not as spectacular as this one. As it flips and spins and tumbles its way out of the race. The red car that had an accident does carry on, although causes a little bit of mayhem for everybody back there. Is right on board with the AI car that things go wrong with it. It's just too much speed, doesn't get turned. It's into the ditch and then out of the ditch with a lot of spins and then smacking of the floor, the front wheels flailing around. Sadly, Assetto Corsa always resets the cars quite quickly, so the crash is kind of ended quite quickly. But yeah, there's been a lot of rolls. There's been a lot of rolls in this episode. That's a good sign, though. That is a good thing. Anyway, that is going to be it for this video. As ever, if you have clips you'd like to submit to this series, you can via a Google form. There shall be a link to it in the description. All the rules and how it works can be found on there. That, though, is going to be it from me. Thank you all very much for watching. And until next time, a goodbye.